War Sovereign Soaring the Heavens, Chapter 778. He'd arrived at Skywolf Fort for a period of time, yet Duan Lingtian had never really strolled about in it. Even if it was the outer fort, Duan Lingtian had passed by many pavilions all along the way. All of these pavilions were used to entertain the young geniuses of the 10 great dynasties that had come from afar, and amongst them included the young geniuses that had come from the Darkhan dynasty like him. Whoosh! Suddenly, figure descended from the sky and attracted Duan Lingtian's attention. Zi Shang. Duan Lingtian's brows knit when he saw the white-colored figure before his eyes. At the same time that Duan Lingtian saw Zi Shang obviously had seen him as well. After a short moment, Zi Shang's voice transmission entered into Duan Lingtian's ears. Duan Lingtian, I truly admire you. You dare do anything and dare kill anyone. Ha 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 ha. As he finished his voice transmission, Zi Shang laughed loudly as he returned to the pavilion he stayed at during this period of time. He's speaking about the matter with the Dongguo clan's eldest young master. This was something that wasn't difficult for Duan Lingtian to guess. But Duan Lingtian didn't care. Since he dared kill the eldest young master of the Dongguo clan that day, he was prepared to deal with the matters that would arise after that. He's heard of the rules of the Skywolf Fort. It was precisely because of this that he wasn't worried that someone would dare seek revenge from him in the Skywolf Fort. As for what happened later, he already had a plan. So long as he became eminent in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties and even obtained the honor of number 1, he would surely be able to obtain the high regard of Skywolf Fort and even become a disciple of Skywolf Fort. Moreover, he would be a disciple that was given emphasis in fostering. After all, no power would allow a disciple with extraordinary natural talent to be covered by dust. He had extreme confidence towards this. He believed that with his worth, he would surely be able to make the Skywolf Fort protect him after the martial competition of the 10 dynasties and protect him from being persecuted by anyone and any power. Frankly speaking, he wanted to rely on the power of Skywolf Fort. Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian hadn't walked a few steps when he heard a familiar voice. On the balcony of a nearby pavilion within his field of vision was a familiar figure. Suli. Duan Lingtian's gaze lit up as he soared up to arrive by Suli's side in the blink of an eye. Suli, when did you arrive? I just arrived yesterday. Suli smiled. Senior has come as well? Duan Lingtian asked. He'd always felt respectful in his heart towards that master of Suli's because Suli's master had once saved his life. Yes. Suli nodded. Master is cultivating in silence in the room. Then I won't disturb Senior. Duan Lingtian smiled. Suli, you're really something. So little time has passed, yet you've actually broken through 3 levels in one go to directly break through to the 2nd level of the void interpretation stage. The 2nd level of the void interpretation stage was precisely Suli's current cultivation, and it was detected by Duan Lingtian's spiritual force at the first possible moment. Duan Lingtian, your eyes are venomous as always. Suli couldn't help but sigh as he glanced deeply at Duan Lingtian. Your current cultivation is surely not inferior to me, right? Duan Lingtian smiled but didn't answer. Suli instead seemed to have discerned something, and he cursed with a smile. You're really a freak. I remember that during the Darkhan dynasty's martial competition that day, I was already at the 9th level of the void initiation stage, whereas you were only at the 8th level of the void initiation stage. Now, even if I've broken through to the 2nd level of the void interpretation stage as well, who do you think is a bigger freak amongst the two of us? Duan Lingtian rolled his eyes at Suli, causing Suli to be unable to help but laugh bitterly. My circumstances are different. After that day, Master gave me another 2 more spirit fruits, and one of them was a spirit fruit utilized by void interpretation stage martial artists. It assisted me to break through in one go from the first level of the void interpretation stage to the second level of the void interpretation stage in a short period of time. Can I take it as you showing off? At the same time that Duan Lingtian was speechless, he deeply felt the benefits of possessing a master with a deep background. Why don't I have such good fortune? Even though the rebirth martial emperor had left behind a great treasure in his second lifetime for his third lifetime, and Duan Lingtian could rely on the memories of the rebirth martial emperor to retrieve it. But he didn't possess a map of the entire cloud continent in his possession, so he didn't know exactly which area of the cloud continent he was at exactly. So, even if he wanted to retrieve that great treasure, he had no way to find it. While Duan Lingtian and Suli were catching up, there was an old man standing in mid-air in the sky nearby the outer fort of Skywolf Fort, and he waited there silently as if he was waiting for something. After a short moment, whoosh! A figure flashed out from the inner fort and arrived nearby the aged old man after a short moment, and he stood stably in the sky. This was a middle-aged man that wore the uniform of Skywolf Fort, but the badge on his chest, the pattern of a skywolf, had a pair of golden eyes. In Skywolf Fort, uniforms that carried skywolf badges with copper eyes were ordinary disciples, those that carried silver-eyed skywolves were core disciples and ordinary elders, whereas those that carried gold-eyed skywolves were uniforms that only the 5 vice fort master of Skywolf Fort had the qualifications to wear. In this way, the middle-aged man's identity was obvious. He was precisely one of the 5 great Vice Fort Masters of Skywolf Fort. Vice Fort Master Feng. The old man bowed slightly when he saw the middle-aged man. Perhaps his age was much greater than the middle-aged man before him, yet in terms of strength, he was far inferior. Moreover, the middle-aged man's status was sufficient to make him look up to the middle-aged man. If it wasn't for him having helped the middle-aged man in some things all those years ago, the middle-aged man might not give him face and come see him. The middle-aged man was called Feng Wei, and he was one of the 5 vice fort masters of Skywolf Fort. Is there something you need? Feng Wei asked with slight impatience when facing the patriarch of one of the 3 great clans of ancient desert city, the Dongguo clan. Perhaps the Dongguo clan's patriarch could command the clouds and reign in ancient desert city, yet he was no different to an ant in the eyes of the vice fort master of Skywolf Fort. So long as he wanted, not to mention the Dongguo clan's patriarch, even the entire Dongguo clan would cease to exist. If it wasn't for the Dongguo clan's patriarch having helped him many years ago, it would be impossible for him to have come out and met the Dongguo clan's patriarch today. Vice Fort Master Feng, my grandson was killed by another a few days ago. I obtained information today and have confirmed that the person who killed my grandson is precisely a kid from one of the 10 great dynasties in the south, the Darkhan dynasty. When he spoke up to here, Dongguo Lei slightly gnashed his teeth. Get to the point. Feng Wei spoke with slight impatience. Yes, yes. Dongguo Lei was slightly in panic when he perceived Feng Wei's impatience, and he said hurriedly, Vice Fort Master Feng, that kid who killed my grandson is one of the 10 great young geniuses of the Darkhan dynasty that has come to participate in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties. Presently, he's in your respected fort's outer area's Narcissus Pavilion. Dongguo Lei implores Vice Fort Master Feng. I hope that Vice Fort Master Feng will allow me to drag him out myself and take revenge for my grandson. Dongguo Lei made clear the reason for his arrival. You want to kill in my Skywolf Fort? Feng Wei's face seemed to be instantly covered in a layer of frost, and his voice revealed extreme coldness that caused Dongwo Lei to feel as if he'd fallen into a pit of ice. I only need to take him away, and I'll absolutely not allow the Skywolf Fort to be tainted with even a single drop of blood. I hope that Vice Fort Master Feng can help me achieve this out of thanks for that thing from all those years ago. Dongwo Lei took a deep breath and took out his biggest trump card. This trump card was precisely that the Vice Fort Master Feng owed him a favor from all those years ago, and he'd originally intended to leave this favor to his grandson, Dongwo Han. Yet now, his grandson had been killed, so he didn't have any more worries and directly used it for the sake of taking revenge for his grandson. Feng Wei's eyes flashed when he heard Dongwo Lei. Are you sure you want to use that favor I owe you from all those years ago? Let me tell you. Once you use this favor, there'll be no connection between you and me any longer. Even if you die or the Dongwo clan is annihilated, it's unrelated to me. Feng Wei spoke his words clearly and resolutely. Dongwo Lei took a deep breath before nodding fiercely. I understand. Good. Feng Wei nodded. Follow me, and I'll pass him to you. From today onwards, both of us will take each other as strangers. After he finished speaking, Feng Wei flew out and headed directly towards the entire row of pavilions that were used to entertain the people from 10 great dynasties. The favor he owed from all those years ago had always been a worry for him. Being able to return this favor today was undoubtedly a type of release to him. In his eyes, the life of a kid from the Darkhan dynasty was lowly like a blade of grass, and since the kid is able to help him return the favor he owed, it was the kid's fortune that was accumulated since the kid's previous life. Dongwo Lei followed behind Feng Wei with a delighted expression and flashed out. Herbaceous Peony Pavilion was the pavilion where Suli was staying. I truly never imagined that you've practically traveled through all the other 9 dynasties during this year of time. Duan Lingtian couldn't help but sigh with emotion when he heard of Suli's experiences during this almost 1 year of time, and he felt that compared to his life, Suli's life was truly too fantastic, causing him to be unable to help but feel slightly envious. What about you? What have you been doing in this 1 year of time? Suli asked with a smile. Me? I didn't have such a leisurely time like you, Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled, but, he hadn't finished speaking when his face went grim. Because a sonorous voice had sounded out from outside. Darkhan Dynasty's Duan Lingtian, come out here. This voice was precisely looking for him. Who? Duan Lingtian couldn't help but frown when he heard this voice. He could be sure that he'd never heard this voice in the past, and in other words, he utterly didn't know the owner of this voice. Duan Lingtian flew out while carrying a bewildered expression. When he saw Duan Lingtian's bewildered expression, Suli, who noticed that the matter was unusual, had hurriedly followed Duan Lingtian. Swoosh! Swoosh! Duan Lingtian and Suli flashed up into the sky and arrived in the sky above Herbaceous Peony Pavilion in a short moment, and they looked from afar at the 2 figures that stood in the distant sky. One was a middle-aged man that wore the uniform of Skywolf Fort, and the other was an old man that wore casual clothes. I hope you enjoy the video. Don't forget like, share, subscribe to channels.